morning, everybody. Thank you for participating on today's webinar. We are talking about the NAHREP 10. We already had our first session, which was a success. And now our presenter is going to be touching up a deeper conversation on the rule or point number 1. But before that, again, I want to welcome everybody, and I want to thank you for your participation. This is a series of 7 webinars. This is not only one session; it's several ones throughout the year. We will have about 11 of them. This is the second one or the third one, maybe, and we are having sessions in both in English and in Spanish for the people that are interested in doing it either in Spanish or in English. The options are available. Take a look at our calendar and you can register for future sessions. But before everything else, I'm gonna just introduce our presenter. I do that every time. I know most of you already know Rico, but just to give you a little bit of his background, I'm going to read a little bit of his bio. Rico's speaking engagements include keynotes, workshops, and lectures in corporate, educational, and community settings such as 3M, University of Minnesota, Carson School of Management, Public Relations Society of America, University of St. Thomas, Target, Florida State University, Hispanic and Multicultural Marketing Conferences, University of Wisconsin and River Falls. And well, there's a huge list. If I keep mentioning this, we'll take some more time. But Rico's got the credential. The idea is that Rico's got the credential. He's got the experience. He's been out there working with the community, and he's doing a really good job. And now he's helping the Latino Chamber of Commerce to put this series together, and he is licensed and he had all the training needed to do this presentation today. So thank you so much, Rico, and with that I will let you start. For everybody else, at the bottom of your screen there is a chat button. If you want to ask any questions at any time, just go ahead and write your question in the chat tool that we have at Zoom, and then Rico will address those questions maybe at the end of the presentation. With that, thank you everybody, and Rico, take it away.
Before we get into the topic of toys, because I know that this was marketed with the concept, with the idea of toys, my usual disclaimer is that I'm not a financial planner, and neither I nor the Hispanic Wealth Project or the Latino Chamber of Commerce sell anything here. This is all absolutely pro bono and volunteer work. We want to help elevate the Latino community, and so that's what we're doing this. I myself am an advertising copywriter, marketing consultant. I am Chief Creative Officer of Rico Latino. As part of my work, I develop communications for clients in financial services, real estate, insurance, and other industries. So when I saw this program, the Hispanic Wealth Project and the NAHREP10, I loved it and decided to serve as a NAHREP10 certified trainer. It's actually not a license, it's a certification. A certification as a NAHREP10 trainer. These are the 10 principles or disciplines that the Hispanic Wealth Project developed. They weren't written by yours truly, but I fully embrace them. 10 principles, and as you can see, for life. It's talk about money, but also talk about the profession and the physical fitness, family, generosity and community involvement, be politically savvy. All these things really have to do with overall wealth, if you would, because you can say that we want to have spiritual wealth and social wealth and besides financial wealth. This is what we're doing. The Latino Chamber of Commerce Minnesota is hosting this entire series this year. So we'll do 2 monthly sessions, one in English, one in Spanish. Last month in June, we did on June 6th, English introduction, And on the Thursday, the 22nd of June, the Spanish one. This month we're doing today the English principle number 1, and on the 27th, the Spanish, same content in Spanish, and so on. All the 10 disciplines, all the way up to April of next year. And in May of next year, we will do the great review, the wrap up of the whole thing. This is a series of things. You will be able to see a lot of this information on a PowerPoint, on a PDF actually, that we can email you. So if you would like to receive the email, by email, the PDF, you can email me, email the chamber, and we'll get it to you. By the way, that PDF will include links like this one, and you can watch the YouTube video of this introductory section. When we have this one in YouTube, we'll plug it in, and this, all of them. And this, you can click on any link, including the resources, which I will provide, and you can go straight to the page. So we want this to be very practical. And so this is a one view of the whole thing. And today we're starting with principle number 1, have a mature understanding of wealth and prosperity, because the one with the most toys usually loses. What toys? Yeah, the boat, buying a boat, is the stereotypical toy, but there are so many other toys, as many as our own individual situations, opportunities, and preferences. Toys are things that cost a lot relative to our means. They are things that depreciate in value, and they come at the expense of other things that we need in life, like an emergency fund or savings for the home, if you don't have one yet, or savings for retirement or education, any large ticket item, like savings for a vacation, for example, so that you don't get into debt to go on a vacation. Saving is really a great way to avoid debt, which is one of the principles, avoid debt. We'll get into that in a couple of months. I never bought a boat myself, or a cabin up north, like many of my friends and colleagues. I had different toys. When I was in my early 20s and enjoying, and I, starting a professional life, and my wife at the time had a similar job, a professional job in insurance, by the way. We enjoyed lavish meals at all kinds of restaurants when we had the money. We were renting an apartment, didn't even own our own home. And you see, lots of dining out and fine dining. That was one of our toys. Talk about depreciating assets. So let's talk about the toys. Let's define what that means. Toys are optional, things that we get when we treat ourselves to luxuries. They are the extras in life, and definitely they're not necessities. They can be a money pit, and they can definitely be a time pit. So we'll get to that a little later. First, let's look at the balance. You can, if you can afford it, something that is a luxury, it's an optional expense, meaning that you have the money and time that it'll take. And after doing the pros and cons, you feel like it makes sense. Then, of course, do it. It's no different than enjoying fine dining, nice jewelry, high fashion. Those things make sense depending on the situation. For example, over the years, I've done a fair amount of talent work. Fashion modeling when I was in my 20s. When you get to age 30, you're way too old to do fashion. So I continue doing talent work, commercial work, voiceover, on camera, things like that. And I would buy nice fashions here and there. It's a hobby for me, for the most part, but it doesn't cost anything because it's a side hustle too, and it pays for itself and then some. So I enjoy the time I do that, as long as it doesn't take away time that I need for relationships, for children, for other things. It's something that I've done, and so I could buy something that, oh, you have 2 tuxedos, that's too much. It's like, well, I use them, I do fashion shows sometimes. So I do bridal shows. I used to be the groom, now I would be the father of the bride or something, maybe the grandpa of the bride. So how do we know if an optional expense is considered a toy or even an optional investment? One way to look at it is, if you answer no to any of these questions, that will be a toy. Question number 1, do you have an emergency fund that's at least 6 months of living expenses? This built into this question is, do you have a budget? Because if you don't have a budget, you don't know what your living expenses are every month. And you need to know that. So, and by the way, we talked in some detail about budget last month. So watch the video and you can see some of those details. And we'll get more into that in some other sessions too. But you want 6 months cash in something that is liquid, not in some investment that it'll take time to convert to cash. So if income stops today, boom, you have enough money to continue living your life for 6 months without any income coming in. That is a basic concept of the emergency fund. Some people say you need a year. Some people say 9 months. The shortest I've seen is 4 months, but 6 I think is a nice happy medium. If you can do more, even better. So this is liquid money, something you can access quickly, and a budget definitely will help you. So we will cover actually some details on the budget in September when we cover principle 3 on living below our means. So hopefully you do have an emergency fund and answered yes. But if not, then that thing is a toy. Check out emergency fund on the websites listed in the resources that are at the end of every PDF and also here today. And you'll see, I mean, there's actually great resources. This is nothing strange. They are great help if you need help. And then don't miss the September session. Do you own your own home, your residence, the place where you live? I'm not talking about investment property. So you're not paying rent to anyone. And are you making progress toward paying it off? Avoiding to pay too much interest and taking advantage of all the tax benefit. Hopefully you don't have a mortgage with a variable interest rate, especially these days. And if you do, then you have to be really aware of when is the right time to maybe refinance, to get a new mortgage with a fixed rate when things are low, not today. Try to make an extra payment. If you have a mortgage, let's say you have a 30-year mortgage, try to make a 13th payment every year. Instead of making 12 mortgage payments every year, do 13 or more, because you can really lower those 30 years to maybe 20, down to 20 or close to 20. So you're paid off in 20 years instead of 30. So that you save a lot of money in interest that way. So that's one thing. If you answer no, then very likely this thing that you want to consider is a toy. And here's a caveat, because you may have a financially sound reason for renting. You're not planning to buy a home at this point, and everything else is taken care of, meaning that your net worth is at a nice level and your income is quite a bit above your living expenses, which means you are living well below your means. In that case, maybe not being a homeowner is not a black and white situation, because this is seldom black and white. That's why it can be hard for some people, some of us, to do this on our own, and we need a financial planning professional who is competent and who we trust to help us with these things. So if your answer is no, or you hesitate, then consider not buying or doing the experience, the vacation, the boat, the cabin. By the way, if you can afford a toy, you can afford a financial planner. That is something that we need to remember from today. Third question, do you have your savings and investment for retirement, for the children's college education, and other savings taken care of? This means that you're making regular contributions toward those things. You're meeting those long-term goals as planned, and this purchase won't interfere with that. If you plan a vacation, you've saved ahead of time, so you can go on vacation with money you already have, instead of getting into debt for the vacation, charging it, for example. Same thing with any large purchase. And watch out for the tempting interest-free offers, because they can be traps. If you don't pay off that loan on time, you may end up paying interest plus fees. Read the fine print. The interest rate on those things are usually very high, by the way. So just always read the fine print. Anyway, if you cannot answer yes to that, then the thing is a toy, and it may be a good idea to postpone it, to rethink it, to look at alternatives, and we'll talk alternatives too. And finally, is this, and this list, by the way, is not comprehensive, but it covers most of the main things. Are you aware of the time and money cost of ownership? I hope so, meaning that the thing, whatever it is you want to get, won't take time or money you can't afford. Consider and quantify the extra time and money that this thing will take from your life, your family time, relationships, your work and professional development time and expense, your volunteer and community time and energy and involvement, things like that. Because if this thing will affect those areas of your life, it may not be worth it. Can you afford this extra cost of time, money, and energy? In other words, the full cost of ownership? If the answer is yes, good for you. But if you hesitate or answer no, then it's a toy and you can't afford it. Sure, you can afford the purchase price, but if you can't afford the other costs, then you really can't afford it. If you answer no to any of these questions, then my hunch is that it is a toy and you'll be better off not getting it and focusing on that area of your financial and overall life that needs to improve so that you have enough protection and you really make smart purchases when you do buy something that is considered a luxury. Let's look at the cost of ownership. There are so many great resources online and some not so good ones. So always look at the source of whatever, don't just click on any page. I'm using a boat as an example here, but it can be a motorhome, a jet ski, a snowmobile, a cabin up north, so many other things, vacations, luxury cruises, whatever it is that you like to do. In fact, here they call, when you look at this, they call the short-term price. That's the purchase price. It's called the short-term price. The long-term price is the total cost of ownership. That is what we want to really consider as opposed to just the cost. So there are many reputable websites with lists of cost of ownership for many things, including boats. Cost of boat ownership, the cost of owning a boat. Of course, there are boating websites, a lot of websites that talk about the cost of boat ownership. And they list a lot of 10 to 20 items that you have to consider. A lot of them assume you're buying a new boat. So they say, oh, the cost of ownership is 30% of the purchase price. If you buy a new boat, maybe. You buy an older boat, sometimes the cost of ownership is a multiple of the purchase price because you bought an older boat, a used boat that requires a lot more upkeep and repairs and maintenance and upgrades and things like that. By the way, the boating websites will, no matter what they do, typically they will say, but you know what, all these costs, it's more than worth it for the joy boating brings to our lives. And that may be true if you're a real hardcore boater and that's your thing and you don't have a lot of other hobbies, maybe, but again, grain of salt, it depends who is the publisher of whatever you're looking at. Because boating websites will always say, hey, yeah, here's the cost of ownership, but you know what? You can afford it, go ahead. No matter how much it is, it's always worth it because of the joy it brings to our lives. So you have to actually look at this and do the exercise for your own situation. The purchase price is just the beginning. So many things, including a boat. And hopefully you bought the boat with cash, because you don't want to incur debt for this. You don't want a boat payment. You need plenty of money for the other things. Fuel can be a big one. And you have to maintain a boat just like you do a car. Even sailboats have engines. And all boats need regular cleaning, painting, TLC, and that takes time, effort, and money. A boat is a combination of a house and a car. Imagine the maintenance of a house, the maintenance of a car, the boat will have both. You have to paint things, you have to do, and repairs, same thing. Something breaks, the AC breaks in your house, the furnace breaks, you have to spend money on that. Same thing with the boat. Things break, you have to fix them, especially if you bought a used boat. Then there are the life jackets and other mandated safety equipment. And by the way, Coast Guard approved life jackets cost a lot more than pool floaties. And of course, you need the right kind of cup holders and trays and tables, cooler and cooler accessories, including a cooling pad so the bottom of the cooler doesn't get too hot. And of course, swim platforms with a nice ladder, towable tubes and other toys, an inflatable kayak maybe, inflatable paddleboard, an inflatable walkway. And hey, why not a marine grill? That is a big thing because, you know, you go out there, spend the day on the lake, you grill some fish, and of course you need a fish fillet table on the boat. Is unending the various things you can get, which are useful, and you'll use them and enjoy them, but it adds up. The upgrades, a lot of them are unexpected. They come out of left field, so you better have some money. And guess what? If something unexpected comes, are you going to tap into the emergency fund? Not a good idea. If you bought a used boat, that was a great deal on item 1 here, then you better have money for item 7 because you may need a lot of these. Some mandated, some because you want to, because of the age of the boat. So check out number 7. Number 8, storage, mooring. If you have a marina, you have to think of during the season storage, during the off-season storage. Plan all that. And if you have a trailer, you have to store the trailer somewhere. If you leave it in your yard, in your driveway, are the neighbors going to complain? Do you live in a place where that's not allowed? Transportation, the trailer, the gas on your truck. And this is where you may say, you know what? I'm going to skip transportation. I'm going to spend a little more money, do my research. I'm going to store it all year in the marina. They store it, they maintain it. They can do repairs too very often. And it'll be all year there during the season. They will put it on my slip, and I'm paying for that too, of course. And I'll go use it, or I can just drive. I don't need that truck. I don't need a truck. I'll just drive my little sexy convertible and go to the marina and go boating, come back, leave it there, and they take care of everything. And in the off season, they will store it. They'll take they'll take care of everything. Look at the cost, because sometimes it makes sense. If you don't need a big truck or you don't want to, well, let's look at number 10, truck upgrade. This is classic. Honey, we need a bigger truck so we can pull the boat with all the stuff in it. Remember last week we went uphill and blah, blah, blah. Okay, skip that. And this, I've seen this. People buy a great boat used and the trailer was free. You know, you just bought, you know, bought a used boat, nice, it's in good shape, and the trailer is free. Well, guess what? Sooner or later, it's like, oh, that trailer is kind of falling apart. We need a new trailer. And there you go. Money pit, that's what I'm talking about. Insurance. Make sure you get the right insurance. A lot of policies don't include towing coverage. So that's like AAA. You get to be towed on the lake or on the river and something happens. Sometimes you have to buy a separate towing coverage. Otherwise, make sure your insurance includes, sometimes could be a rider, I don't know, for towing, because you need that. Taxes, all the certifications, registrations, those are inevitable. You need to do them and keep them up to date. You don't want to be caught by the sheriff water patrol with an expired registration or with expired or missing regulation safety equipment. 13, this is the last one in this list, and it's a huge area. I know boat owners who spend hours and days working on their boat, cleaning it up before and after a day of boating, polishing it, and researching all the options for upgrades and accessories. Make sure you have the extra time in your life for this, that it doesn't take away from your work time, your family time, other priorities. So there you have it. This is only the beginning. Don't get a loan. Ideally, you pay with cash because you need your cash. You need your, this is another boat payment or more, depending on the month. So Ideally, you don't have a boat payment, save for it, buy it with cash, and then plan on these expenses. And we're talking about a boat, but hey, guess what? A cabin. It could be a cabin. It could be any other toy. Very early on in my life, at least I didn't do that. I mean, I could have done it, but I never got a cabin because I want to go to different places. And so I rent a place for a month or a week or whatever. I've done that most of my life. And same with a boat. I was a while back with my children when they were younger, a little in Puerto Rico. I went there for a marketing conference, stayed over, a month later, touring Puerto Rico and going boating. And guess what? You can choose a motorboat, a sailboat. At one point we chartered a sailboat just for us, 5 people. With a captain and one captain, one crew, and we had a nice lunch. They had a grill, and we went sailing. We're sailing, and we just kind of enjoying it without doing the work. Some people like sailing; they learn to sail, and I've been on many sailboats over the years, and sometimes renting pays off. For example, think of these storage. Think of all of these. One option that I've seen in the Twin Cities, and it's actually all over the country, you can actually join a boat club. And in the Twin Cities, you can choose, you say, I'm going to take it 10 times during the season, during the summer. Minnesota is not that long. And we, depending on the week or the weekend, we're going to take a boat on Lake Minnetonka or the St. Croix River. You can do both. And all you do is you show up, you use the boat for the day, return it, and that's it. You pay a price, of course, but it includes all of this. They take care of everything. They give you the keys and off you go for the day, come back, leave it there, and that's it. Boat club. Sometimes renting makes a lot of sense. That's another one, when you consider, shall I buy or am I committed to this hobby really? And will it take too much of my life energy, life force? Move on. Another financial pitfall is focusing on income instead of assets and net worth. A lot of people say, I've heard this actually in our Latino communities all over the country. Oh, my son is rich. Oh, he's making $300,000 a year. He just got an MBA and he's doing great. Or my daughter just went to law school and he got a great job at a firm in Atlanta. She's rich. She's making, tons of money, more than I ever made in my life, blah, blah, blah. Well, yes, there are a lot of high income, but what is your net worth? And that's really important. I've seen people in our communities all over the country, Latino communities, where, maybe you do really well in business early on or graduate with your MBA, law degree in your early 20s, have a great corporate job, very nice salary. And if their job, if the corporation doesn't give you a luxury company car, you buy one or lease one. Typically, a lot of these people don't have their first home yet. They are renting a luxury apartment, living a life of luxury, and they feel rich because they have a high income, yet they have a negative net worth, especially if they have student loans. That's one example of high self-worth, low net worth. By the way, this was my ride last weekend. That bicycle, not the car. This car was parked near the bike trail where I go. And when I saw it, I had to stop and take a photo. What a beautiful, absolutely marvelous thing. It's a classic Porsche, quite old. Here's a list of the resources. And I want to put this at the end of the PDF that I use on these sessions. There may be more or less. And again, this is not an endorsement. Use them at your own risk. You need to look at your situation, because none of these things have a black and white solution for everything. Be careful when you search the web, don't click just on anything. And even when you click on these sites, grain of salt, they could be wrong. And that's why it's also important to work with a professional, a financial planning professional that you trust, that's competent. Like I said, if you can afford a toy, you can afford a financial planner. There are several net worth calculators online, because we're talking about income versus net worth. Part of having a mature understanding of wealth and prosperity, which is principle number 1, what we're seeing today, is understanding the difference between income and net worth, and really focusing on net worth, not so much on income. And there's great advice to improve your net worth in all these resources. So just use them. And here's another thing you want to, besides net worth, why don't you calculate your DTI, debt to income ratio. That is used not only by lenders. You know, let's say, oh, I don't need a loan, I'm not borrowing money from anybody. Well, if you apply for a credit card, or even if you don't apply for anything, a lot of times your DTI is used just to check you out. A lot of these calculators come preloaded with numbers, then you put your number, calculate, and see your own situation. Some of the elements of this are even used to measure character, believe it or not. Let's look at the details of that. This is, oh, by the way, these are the numbers. 36 or lower, I would say 30 or lower, it's great. You want to be there. You don't want to have a high debt to income ratio. If you're over 50%, you're in trouble, really. You really need to work. And ideally, you work with a financial planner, with professionals, get your CPA involved, and really try to fix that, pay off debt. We will have a session on debt later on. I love, by the way, this Nerd Wallet is one of the great resources out there. Again, Investopedia is another one. And of course, they all have a DTI ratio, debt to income ratio page and calculator. Zillow is more focused on real estate. And so, of course, it's all about mortgages and buying a house and things like that. Forbes Advisor is actually a fairly good site for many things. And again, of course, they have a calculator. And debt.com has a Spanish page, a whole section in Spanish. Here are the factors that affect credit scores. These five colorful things. Payment history is number one. Credit utilization, length of credit history, mixed of credit types, and recent applications. That is what they look at to calculate your credit score, and that's where your credit score comes from. Another way to look at it is to talk about the 5 C's. Same thing as these 5 colorful bars, but with a letter C on each one. All right? Look at the first one, character. Okay, that's how you measure your character. And so character, capacity to repay, capital, net worth really, and liquidity, collateral, again, liquidity here and what you have, and conditions. These are the 5 C's. This is an Investopedia. There are several. If you Google the 5 C's of credit and you get to a reputable website, you find a lot of great information. Character, number 1, also known as credit history. This is a nice chart about the 5 C's of credit. All of this is part of developing, this is principle number 1, developing a mature understanding of wealth and prosperity. This is principle number 1. This is basic, and the more we consume these things, the more we actually react in a better way when the time comes of making a financial decision. Another key element to have a mature understanding of wealth and prosperity is to have a good understanding of the time value of money. Here's what happens over time when somebody invests 15% of a $50,000 salary. After 10 years, they may think, I only have around 130K here. Yeah, no big deal. Look at the compounding effect of money. By year 20, you have over $500,000. And after 30 years, it's up to 1.75 million. So this is the powerful compounding effect of money, the time value of money. Understanding this, like I say, we consume all kinds of things. They all affect our decisions, our gut feelings, our instincts. And if we consume these things, how much time do we spend researching whatever to buy, something very mundane, and we go, we search, we read reviews, we see what Amazon has. Well, let's spend a little time on this kind of thing. It's financial literacy in a sense. it really affects our decisions later. Here is Investopedia. They have a curriculum. Look at this. Kindergarten, first 3 sessions, needs and wants. Community, and they go up to the 5th grade on this one. But there's so much great and better information. So we want our kids to know this, to have financial literacy, and for us to, it does affect when it comes time to make a decision, even what wine to order in a restaurant, in a fine restaurant, things like that. These things really help us because we have a more mature understanding of what it is. Check out the principles of building wealth. Again, Investopedia, but a lot of good reputable sites have these basic principles. Look at the table of contents. Earn money, yeah, you got to make money. Develop goals and a plan, maybe with the help of a financial planner. You hire them initially, you get a plan, and then once a year you get together to review the plan and tweak as needed. You save money, yes, you invest money, this is separate. Protect the assets, insurance. We'll touch on a little bit of this in a few minutes here because I want to talk about protection. Minimize the impact of taxes. This is where your CPA and other tax experts can help us with. Manage debt, ideally avoid debt, and build your credit. That's why we need to understand the 5 C's of credit. This is Investopedia, but there are many sites about the principles of building wealth. We want to be conversant on these things. On future sessions, we'll focus on avoiding debt and getting out of debt if we owe. So all of these are great tools, great techniques. They are not hard. You can learn, you can approach getting out of debt in a very systematic way that is not hard, not difficult. Here is Forbes again. Forbes Advisor is actually a good resource. Caveat, anybody can be wrong. They can be wrong. Your financial planner could be wrong, but give them enough time to answer your questions. They can do the research, consult with colleagues, and give you the best advice. So I believe in financial advisors. This is an online advisor, Forbes, great publisher with a very complete editorial team with experts, very solid info. Are you a pet owner? Most pet owners don't have pet insurance. And a lot of times they spend many thousands of dollars they can't afford in the last year or 2 of the pet's life. In one case, somebody I knew well, cat got sick. She spent thousands of dollars on the vet. When she ran out of money, her mom kicked in and a few more $1,000 in the vet, in the vet expenses. Well, of course, eventually the cat died, but it's a money pit. And so consider the protection even for your pet. So at least you have, okay, I'm going to budget. I need so much money to pay my policy, my pet insurance. And I'll assume that as the pet gets older, especially, you kind of budget a little more money because whatever the insurance doesn't cover, you cover. But these things are, again, protection, invaluable. You need protection. You need life insurance, term, whole life, whatever works for you. You need to be well insured. Thank you. And this is a shout out to NAHREP. They have a local Twin Cities chapter. They have events, other opportunities for professional growth. And of course, our Latino Chamber of Commerce, Minnesota, which is hosting this series of the NAHREP10. They offer many opportunities, many resources. Click on the event calendar and register for the next NAHREP10 session and also for the next networking event. And maybe I'll see you there. And if you have people that you think should be listening to this, we do this in English and Spanish. So check out the calendar, click on calendar. You can register for the English version, the Spanish version. Get them both. They're actually slightly different because this is not a translation. If you know me, I don't translate, I transcreate, creative transfers. So it's culturally appropriate to one culture or the other. And with that, thank you very much. Now we can entertain any questions people may have.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rico, for your help on this one. It's got a lot of good information. Sometimes you don't think of all those details, right? You're always focusing on the big things, and there's so many details that could bring so much cost. in buying, some articles, some assets, or some, toys, as you call them. So it's good information, and I think the idea is to share that information among our members, and so they can keep that in their back of their minds. Most of our members are business owners, and obviously they should have a good understanding of budgeting and how to be smart financially for their own businesses and for personal reasons. So thank you so much for all this information. Thank you for all the people in the audience. We had today, we had several people attending. And we are inviting all of you to participate in our next session. If there's any questions, I think let me check the chat to see if there's any questions. Well, everybody's just sending.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Oh, thank you. Everybody's just saying thank you so much. Apparently, there is no questions, Rico, which means you did an excellent job in sharing the information today. So with that, I don't know, Rico, you have any last words before we stop or finish our session here?
Thank you for attending, and do feel free to recommend people, point them to the chamber website, click on calendar, and have people register for these things. Even if they cannot attend, let them register for the English or Spanish or both. And by being registered to attend, they will receive reminders. They will also be able to request the PDF for each session. And we're also recording these things, so we put them on YouTube. So if you miss a session or part of a session, you can watch the session on YouTube. By the way, one comment about the PDF and my PowerPoints. As you could see, my PowerPoints are not a list of bullet points. They're not my script. I put something on the screen and I say a lot of things. So if you just look at the PDF, you don't get the real message that you get some of the message. But my PowerPoints, the PDF you'll get is not a script of this. The good thing is we'll have them on YouTube. So those two elements, watch the video and use the PDF as a tool, as a resource, that could be very powerful. But again, I know I've been through death by PowerPoint, and some people have a list of bullet points, and they basically read the PowerPoint, and it's like, hey, this could have been an email. What am I here? So anyway, that's the caveat. The PDF is not going to be the complete enchilada, whole enchilada. You need to also hear what the content is during the time I have a slide on the screen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Rico. And we'll be sending an invitation for our Spanish version of this in a couple of weeks, and we'll do everything in Spanish. So if you know anybody that you might think should be receiving this information, please share those links, the invitations that you will not receive. All right. Other than that, I think thank you so much. There is no questions up to now, and we'll see you on our next session. And have a great day. Enjoy the summertime in Minnesota.